Hello lovelies, Hollie Hope here. We're going to be diving into the prosperity kit and opening up ways that we may be blocking prosperity from coming into our lives and ways that we might be actually allowing other people's perspectives and influences to limit and bind what we're able to call into our lives. Now, the very first thing in order to know what you want to call into your life is to cleanse yourself of everything that is in your life that is blocking something from coming in. If you think about it, we talk about this in drum ceremonies all the time. When you're holding on to something, it's really hard to be open to receiving something more. And if you're already limiting yourself and you're holding on to limiting beliefs saying, this is how much money I can make, this is how much abundance I can bring in, this is how big I can grow, this is how small I need to stay, then it's really hard to shift that and go somewhere else. And so we're going to be diving in this video to some of those ways that those bonds keep us stuck and keep us trapped, and also some of the ceremonies you can do to start clearing that out. Now you'll notice this kit is very ceremony heavy and you can bring in all your witchy woo season wonderful gifts and start to really take charge and take power of those things. When we do a ceremony or a spell, as some people call them, what we're doing is we're infusing intention, energies, and a tangible visualization so that we can actually cultivate and bring in the thing that we're desiring. So when we have a ceremony, we're setting aside sacred ritual time to really connect deep in. So I recommend not doing these half-heartedly or feeling rushed. The nice thing is you have several little ones that you can do, or you can make it into one big ceremony. It's completely up to you based on your time and how fast you want to open yourself up for some prosperity, or maybe how many layers you need, because we all process and receive differently. Some of us, we can only do so much at once, whether it's physical or emotional or energetical, or we're just really tired. And then some of us, we're ready to just go all in and move as fast as possible. And I really want to thank you for taking a step forward to expanding the prosperity on the planet. We're in a time, especially right now with the energy and the emotions along the collective, of feeling very scarce, feeling very shrunk. We had this abundant phase, we had some chaos, and now it's like, okay, things have mellowed out, but then we see all the things that aren't in alignment. And when we start pulling things out of alignment, we start seeing everything pulling away. And as we pull things away, we start to freak out a little bit. So this kit is designed to bring us back into center and allow us to let go what isn't serving, but then also to bring in what is serving, not just to bring in for us to hold and have, but to expand it. So by you watching these videos, by you purchasing your kit, you are claiming expansion, you're claiming prosperity, you're claiming that hope that we can create a new earth and a new way of being. So thank you, thank you, thank you, because the rest of us empaths love when you feel this, because we all get to feel this. So we're going to talk about the shadow side of prosperity. We're going to talk about mindset and all of those beautiful things. And then I will mention different ways you can use your ceremonial tools to reset and reclaim parts of yourself. So as I share these stories, as I share examples, maybe have a notebook nearby and start writing out maybe people or thoughts or programs that come to mind. This kit is very ancestral heavy because that's where a lot of our scarcity comes from. If you think about it, how many of our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents experienced scarcity? Pretty much all of them. And if your family immigrated, at some point, they felt a lot of scarcity because they came to a land where they were promised one thing and probably didn't get what they were hoping to get, because back then communication wasn't as great as it is now. And they received hard times if they ended up being pioneers or settlers or had lands that were invaded. There's so much scarcity and fight and rage and suffering, and a lot of that gets programmed into our DNA through our epigenetics. And what this programming does is it tells us to stay small. It tells us to stop trying. It tells us to expect less so we feel less heartache, which is a beautiful thing that our ancestors did. Our ancestors tried to call us in to say, hey honey, stay over here where it's small and don't expect anything, and then you'll feel better and your life will be so much happier than mine, where I expected something and I didn't get it. Think of how many times we've expected things and not gotten them, and so then we stop expecting, we stop learning how to desire. We only want that which we know we can get rather than what we really, really want. And so we want to allow ourselves to have the perspective of, okay, this is what my family taught me. This kept me safe for a while. Now we're on a new earth, we're in a new time, and we can actually shift and change this DNA. If you think of how the mosquitoes used to be gigantic in prehistoric times, and then there wasn't enough food, so they taught each generation to grow smaller and smaller and smaller and require less. And if you require less, then you'll survive, which is true. If you're watching this video, you've survived. Good job. But now it's time to expand. It's time to grow big again. It's time to outshine and outgrow everything you've been before. And that's what this whole kit is focused around. So let's talk about the shadow of prosperity. So some of the shadow sides are some of the thoughts and beliefs and mindsets that stop us from allowing ourselves to receive. And then we'll go through the light side and how to invite more in. So one of the big pieces that I hear all the time are the entitlement. What I have is the best there is, and I'm the only one that has this in this form. So therefore, you should buy from me. Entitlement is saying that I get this thing above anybody else getting their thing. It's where the ego comes in and says, I must get this and you must help me get this. And if you don't help me get this, then you don't love me, you don't support me, you're wrong. And that's where like a lot of gaslighting comes in. That's where a lot of manipulation can form, is when we feel like something is owed to us. Now, the difference between desiring and being able to receive just because you exist, because you're a God, because you can create anything in your life and you're a powerful manifester. The difference is one is a sense of empowerment, saying, I choose this, so I'm aligning with this, so it's going to flow to me. And if you are not in alignment with it, it's okay. I don't expect you to do it for me. I expect you to love me while I do it differently. And it's about looking and forming any which way you need to in order to have your desires come into fruition. Now, if any time, in order for you to receive, you must take from somebody else, or somebody else must lose, or somebody else must give it to you versus you receiving it from the universe, from your efforts, from the wonderful gifts that you offer, then it goes into the space of entitlement. Now, this one is really tricky to find in ourselves, because the minute we start poking fingers at somebody else is probably when we're in a sense of entitlement. So maybe it is really that easy. But really what's happening is when we are stuck in a sense of entitlement, it's almost as if we create a void or a black hole, because we're receiving without giving. Everything around prosperity is around the circle, giving and receiving, giving and receiving. And you always receive more than you give, yes. But there is some effort of giving of your essence, giving of your light, giving of your love, giving appreciation and gratitude, rather than making long lists of what's missing and demanding that it gets given to you, and other people need to cater to making sure you get what you feel you deserve. That is entitlement. And that is one of the greatest indicators that you're going to be challenged with prosperity, because that will never be fed. A black hole will never get full. It will always be empty. So if you find that as soon as you receive, you're not having a moment of savoring and enjoying, and oh, this is such a delicious moment, and instead you're like, okay, but next, okay, but next, okay, this is a good start, but next, but next, but next. And if you're noticing you're pulling in that nextness, then that entitlement may come up. This is where our ego gets challenged. Now, it's important to remember that the ego isn't the enemy. The ego is actually a middle ground that allows us to say, hey, what I have to offer is actually wonderful and beautiful, and maybe some of these things haven't been tried this way before or seen this way before. And if you're allowing yourself to see that, oh, I do have something great to offer, that is ego. It's a little bit of ego, which is required to stay in this human 3D world. Now, when the ego says everything I do is better than everybody else's, and nobody else is as good as me, and everybody needs to listen to me, and you're all wrong, everything I'm doing is what I was told to do, and yet it's not working. Why isn't it working? It should work. I am owed this. So that's all entitlement, is believing that you are owed it. Somebody needs to give their portion to you because you did more work, you are more deserving, you have better ideas, you did more trainings, and you can come up with a list of why this item belongs to you. And that's still a form of scarcity, Because what you're saying is there's not enough, so you did all these things so that you could get enough because you haven't had enough thus far. And so it's a scarcity mindset as well. On the flip side, the same one would be believing that we can't receive because if I'm receiving, I'm going to take from someone else. If I receive, then I'm going to stop somebody else from receiving. And I'm okay, and I'm, at a good neutral, so somebody more deserving or more needy or more suffering, those people should have the thing that I desire because I want to make sure that everybody gets what they need. Meanwhile, we don't get what we need. Another type of the shadow is understanding that in order to receive love, in order to receive success, I have to do more effort. So if I'm not getting what I want, I have to work harder. I have to do more. One of the problems that we see with these parallels is the middle ground is actually, I want to receive because then I'll give more. For example, when someone struggles to purchase something that they really, really want, because of money, they're not allowing the money to circulate. They're not allowing somebody's gifts and efforts that they've infused into an object to be received and their lives blessed. So they're also stopping income, but they're also stopping the progression and the expansion of other people's gifts. And when we stop this, it doesn't allow the energy to flow. It doesn't allow the person who's creating to create. It doesn't allow the person who's purchasing to purchase and invest in themselves and in their experience. And so it actually creates stagnancy. And what happens to water when it's stagnant? It grows stinky, it grows bacteria, it becomes not usable, it becomes undrinkable, it becomes even poisonous at times. So it's the same thing when we have the fluid of energy flowing through in prosperity. The less we allow money and goods and skills and efforts to flow, the less there is and the more toxic it is when it does start to flow. Meaning scarcity will be influenced even if you are investing in something, even if you are purchasing something you desire and you love, if you have the guilt over purchasing it, or if you have the, oh, I'm glad I finally sold this, I hope I can sell another one because it's never enough, you just created more stagnancy and more scarcity. Oh, hummingbird. So instead, we can dive in and say, okay, I'm blessing this thing. I'm blessing the money that I send. I am blessing the gifts that come out from the money I send and creating the circulation. Then what happens is we're creating a win-win-win, a win for you, a win for me, and a win for all the collective. So we're allowing that circulation to happen. So the more you can circulate, the better it will be for all of us. So we aren't meant to just hold on and let things grow stagnant. We're meant to let them flow and be fluid. That's why there's so many water elements here, even down to having a water bath and having the water tea. We want a lot of flow energy. We want the softness. We want the ease to continue to move through. And then I'll help other people to get what they need. So allowing yourself to be in that middle space. So maybe take a moment and journal. What is it that you have to offer that is actually really powerful, beautiful for the world? Is it even just your voice, the way you sing? Is it your heart and the way you love and can hold true safe space for others? Is it artistry, your paintings? I get to put my paintings in the kit, and that's been really fun for me because that's one of my plays. Is it maybe you're really good with technology and you're able to help people pinpoint things? Maybe it's the work you provide is actually a service that's helping other people to have less stress, have more ease, have more joy. What is the offering that you give? Sometimes we have to see our offerings in order to receive and see their value. And ask yourself, do I value the offerings I give? Because if you're not valuing the offerings you give, then guess what? Nobody else will either. And they will withhold feeling like they need to support you or need to share with you or give you those things, because if you don't value them, they're not going to value them, and they're going to always ask for discounts and specials and ask you to do them favors. Where instead, if you allow yourself to see the value, then there's no question of what the value is and that it's worth it or not worth it. Also ask yourself, where is it that I maybe devalue parts of myself? One of the beliefs that stop our prosperity is believing that in order for us to receive, we have to take from someone. And that's actually the flip side. If you think of a pendulum, you have one extreme is entitlement. I must take from others in order to get what I deserve, and I deserve it, so it's okay that I take from others. And then the other side that says the only way I can receive is if I take from others. So if I receive, I'm taking from others, and I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to receive. So those are two far extremes of the same mind state, just depending on which side you're leaning into. So asking ourselves, do I believe that in order to receive, I must take from someone else? Back when I used to do training for sales, so many years ago, I remember one of the biggest struggles that women would have would be seeing that somebody wanted to purchase something, seeing that they loved the thing, seeing that it would make their lives better, but still not able to spit out the words, what would you like to buy? Or feeling all these awkward emotions as they take money from somebody, even though you're giving them something. There's this awkward, weird sensation like I'm doing something wrong or I am swindling somebody. And a lot of that comes from not understanding value of ourselves, value of our gifts, and also that scarcity of spending money is wrong or evil. So if we could take a moment and write down the things that come up for you when you think of receiving, whether it's money or love or abundance, what comes up for you? Do you allow yourself, do you love receiving money because you're such a good steward over it? Do you love giving money because you love seeing how happy it blesses other people's lives? So let's look at some of the beliefs that a lot of us seem to allow others to put up on us. And these are often beliefs that we hold because they're in our DNA from the moment we're conceived. So allowing yourself to maybe list them out. What are some of the thoughts that you have around receiving? Do you feel like if I receive, I have to take from someone? If I receive, I'm being gluttonous or I'm being selfish? It was really interesting because I remember I was buying something and my son was with me. And I said, yeah, I feel a little guilty for buying this because there's so many other needs of the house. And not that anybody's needs aren't being met, but there's just a lot going on. We have kids going off to college. We have kids coming home. We have kids investing in new programs. And I mentioned like, oh, I feel kind of selfish because I'm buying this thing that's not really a necessity. And I remember my son pointing out, he's like, wait a minute. You provide everything for the whole house. You give us food, you give us our home, you give us our clothes. You literally pay for everything we have. And you're feeling bad about this for you, even though you work really hard? And I went, yeah, I am. And it was so beautiful because he helped me catch myself. Because it was something that wasn't necessarily important. It was, I can't even remember what it was. It was so irrelevant. And yet I was allowing myself to feel guilty, but then I was voicing what I was feeling. And the minute we voice it, the minute we bring awareness to it, then it goes away. And I went, you're right. I shouldn't feel guilty about this. I'm not going to feel guilty about this. I'm going to enjoy it. And I really enjoy that by purchasing this thing, we were able to have this conversation. You were able to see what permission looks like and understand my heart a little better. And I was able to see my son's appreciation. So allowing ourselves to pull awareness to things is going to help us to go deep enough that we can reprogram ourselves and reprogram our posterity. So what are some of the beliefs that we have? What are some of the thoughts that we have? Is there a belief around having money is evil? It's the love of money that's quoted in the Bible being evil. Money is the root of all evil. I remember that one too. And it's like, again, it's being more in love with money than it is people that is. However, if you go the other extreme where you're always abhorring money and you're pushing it away to be more holy, to be more humble, to be more, saintly, then what you're doing is you're actually pushing money away, which means you aren't allowing yourself to be abundant. You aren't allowing yourself to be prosperous. And so who is likely to be able to help the community? Who is likely to be able to be there when somebody is having a scarce moment? Or who's going to breed more scarcity? It's going to be the people who don't have it, right? And those who do have it, that use it for holy purposes, that are a good steward over their money. They direct money where to go. They help money to say, hey, we're going to grow and expand over here. Hey, we're going to build this over here. Hey, we're going to give this here. We're going to allow people to nurture and grow and feel loved because we're going to show them what it feels like to believe. that is one of the most noble ways that you can utilize money, is to expand. And if you are using money to add pleasure and joy to your experience, that is also wonderful, because you're adding pleasure and joy to the collective emotional experience. And you're showing others that it doesn't have to be a hard, painful, suffering human existence. The world programs us that our life has to be hard and suffering, and it doesn't. It's just that we choose into this mindset because we haven't learned how to unravel it and reprogram it. That's why so many powerful light workers have been blasting through in the last generations to come through and to create a new experience, to create a new understanding, to create a new world and a new way of believing that you can really have joy. And joy can be your primary emotion. So that's the other thing, is where in your belief system does it say that you can't have joy and have money? That if you were to have joy in your work, then you won't be able to get paid as much for it. Because that's the thing that I've seen in a lot of clients, and also owning with myself, is that if I work hard, I get paid more and I can play when all the work's done. Well, if it's work hard, get paid more, work hard, get paid more, sometimes we don't ever get to the play part. Or sometimes we create these huge projects and we don't ever get playtime. I am blessed enough that a lot of my work is also play, and I'm very, very grateful for that, because it helps me to stay motivated, because money is not my motivator, connection is. And so if your motivator isn't money and you think it's money because you worked in scarcity mindset, that's something to look at as well. Do you feel motivated by money, or do you feel motivated by validation? Do you feel motivated by connection? Do you feel motivated by free time? What is it that motivates you when moving towards your prosperity? Because knowing yourself is going to be the way that you find that. Another one that I love is, what comes easy to us, or what is our spiritual gift, is exactly what we should be paid for. In case you didn't know this, it is exactly what you should be paid for. And so often we are taught that, no, that's supposed to be separate. That's supposed to be free. That's supposed to be hoarded out over here and given in the little outskirts of pockets of time when I really don't have the time or the energy, and then I'm depleted. What you are naturally good at is exactly what you should be paid for, because guess what? It's going to be the easiest. It's going to bring the most joy, and you're going to do it the best. If I am sticking myself into a job where my gifts are shrunken, for example, I was an admin assistant for a lot of years, and I worked for a hunting magazine and hunting expo that ended up being picked up by TV and had a whole TV series. And hunting was not my thing. It was not my passion. I like to hunt with a camera. I will take the animals after hunting and I will make drum hides out of them. But I did not enjoy killing animals, hunting animals, finding animals. That was not my thing at all. Yet I edited articles for it, managed distribution and numbers. And so I was living for money. And back then, yeah, I had to. I was in scarcity mode and I had to live for money. So I would go and I would do my job, and then I would go home and I would be utterly exhausted. So even when I did get money, it would already be ready to be spent. Most of the time it was spent before I got it, bills went out, and I had nothing again. And I noticed it was exchange of energy for money leads you with that same circle. Energy, money, energy, money, energy, money, energy, money. Not energy, fulfillment, joy, passion, healing, ooh, money. Energy, joy, fulfillment, passion, ooh, money, energy, joy, and creating a circle. And so understanding the belief that perhaps the thing that you're doing for money isn't the thing you desire to do for money. It doesn't mean that we all have to quit our jobs right now and go off and be artists on the street. But if you are an artist, maybe start offering some paintings, maybe adding in a paint class, maybe finding a way that you can use your gifts and use what comes easy for you in the world of money. And then it makes it easier for it to come to you. So for example, if I'm a connector, and the thing that makes it so powerful for me is connecting with people, and I do still have to have a standard 9-to-5 job for the moment, I can find ways to use those connector gifts to re-fulfill me as I receive that money, because then my soul isn't in argument with this 3D world. So for example, I used to work for a vet clinic, and at the vet clinic, doing numbers and schedules, yeah, I'm really good at that, but that's not what I'm best at. That's not what lights me up. It's not what excites me. It's what makes me feel in control. When I'm overwhelmed, I love going to numbers. Yes, there's the control. But in my highest expression of myself, that's not what I experienced. And so what I found was I found a way I could use my gifts at the vet clinic, especially when people had animals that were passing away. I have these gifts that help move emotion and help people connect to them and help energetically the emotions to leave their body so that they're able to be in a state of peace and acceptance with the passing of their animal. I can help their grief. I can give them love. I can give them big, huge, squishy hugs because I'm not held to any standard that says I can't. And so I would do all of those things. So as morbid as it sounds, when an animal that was about to pass away came in, I actually lit up because I went, da, 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 I'm off the bench. This is what I'm here for. And I was able to find a way I could serve. And then when I received money for that, I felt like I was helping and I felt like I was doing some good in the world. And within a short amount of time, once I started focusing on that, other avenues opened up and I was able to break away from having to work for anybody else again and instead only worked for myself and only expanded my gifts. I remember having the thought, what if each morning when I woke up and I connected with Spirit, what if I only did that day what Spirit told me to? What if I could act on everything that I had an impression to act on that day before I missed out on it? What would life be like? And honestly, I tell you, life opened up and I was able to experience all of my dreams. I'm actually at a state where I'm like, oh, check, 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 check. Like I have one thing left on my dream poster. And then I need to come up with new dreams because I was able to receive them and experience them. Not because I'm lucky, not because, I knew somebody. It was because I finally started saying, I have gifts and I want to expand them. And if Spirit will guide me, I will expand them and I will happily receive money for that expansion so that I can expand it more. True power, a lot of times when people look at money and money being power, they look at true power being those with the money have the power, and those with the power keep the money. But those with true power, they don't hold power and they don't hold money. Everything is circulated. The power is circulated to the people. The money is circulated back to the people. And guess what? It's going to come back. It's like the law of karma, always in circulation. Everything you send out gains momentum and comes back to you. And so allowing your money to flow out and gain that momentum. So another belief that a lot of people have is the evil that comes with money. Money doesn't make you evil. Money will exaggerate whatever you are. So if you are a very scarce person, when you get more money, you're going to hold on to it a lot more. If you are frivolous with your money or you have a spending addiction like I used to have, you will continue to have those same addictions unless you look at them. Yes. But isn't it beautiful that even with money, you can expand it, see it, and do something about it versus hiding it and never having it? Those who are very generous, guess what? When they get money, they are so much more generous because they can be, because they know what it feels like to not have. And so when you do have, it feels so good to give, not to a point of depletion, but being a good steward. So I would recommend using the affirmation, I love when I am a good steward over my money that I receive. That affirmation invites in being responsible with our money, not frivolous, not throwing it away. If you were given some seeds with potential to grow, you're not just going to throw them off in the garbage and forget about them, say, oh, hope you grow. You're actually going to take the time to plant them and nurture them and watch them grow. That's the same thing with money. The more prosperity we have, the more we're able to plant and nurture and help other things to grow and help other people to grow. And so as we go through all these negative beliefs, it's also important to dive into our positive beliefs. So if I had all that I desire, how will that bless others? Because we may think we're blessing somebody by buying, like I bought a little vial of red rock sand. Now, mind you, I could walk to my backyard here, right here in the dirt. It's red sand. And I bought a little vial. Why? Because somebody was selling it. And I knew that somebody probably needed the $10 for that vial of sand. And so that little $10 was saying, hey, I believe in you. I love your creativeness. I love the beauty you made. Not, ooh, I could do this myself. Why would I give you my money? No, I'm circulating my money. And in that, I get to still take that little jar of belief and hope that now I've infused with money by paying money for it, and I'm actually giving it to my daughter who's been homesick. And here's some red dirt for you, here's some home for you. And so then that gets to infuse that much more belief and abundance and joy. And so I'm able to give it and circulate it. So when you purchase something, pay attention to what is your intention in spending this money. Is it just because you want something, which is fine too, or is it because you want something and you want to bless somebody else's life? I don't utilize coupons because I don't want anybody to cheapen their offerings. I want them to know that I value their offerings 100%. And that's why I won't ask for a discount, even of like family members and friends. No, I value your offering. And I want you to know I value it by sending you the energy of money or energy of some other form. I have clients that haven't been able to pay for services, and they do things like clean my garage and make me tacos for dinner. And sometimes we do trade if it's something that I would actually pay money for. Prosperity doesn't always have to be money. Let's get down to why we haven't received everything we want to in our lives thus far. So if you have a notebook, I would get it out and start a paper. And in it, I would write, what do I believe about my ability to receive? Do I receive all I need? Yes or no? Do I let myself receive all I need? Yes or no? Have there been times when someone tried to give me something and I said no, even though I actually wanted it? Do you want the last slice of cheesecake? Oh no, you have it, because you must want it more. Well, they offered it. They were willing to let me have it. Were they just asking that because they were wanting to see if they could have it? You know, we can split it. Do I feel that in order for me to receive, another must lose, must give up? Do I feel like people are selfish and nobody ever wants to give me what I need? Because that's probably a sign of entitlement, which we don't like to admit that we have, but sometimes we do, and it's okay. The idea is to see it. Are there beliefs about money that I'm still holding on to from my ancestors? Do I believe it's smart to spend money? Do I believe it's a waste to spend money? Do I believe by spending money I am causing pain to somebody else? Do I feel like by spending money I'm causing joy to somebody else? How would it feel if I was abundantly wealthy with money or other avenues? If this isn't all about money for you, then that's great too. How would it feel if I was absolutely wealthy right now? Would I feel embarrassed? Would I feel like I needed to keep it quiet? Would I feel like people would try and take it from me and ask me for it? If I had $10 million right now, what would I do with it? Start diving into some of these money beliefs and seeing where they came from. One of mine was that, my mom would always say, oh, money doesn't grow on trees. Well, technically it's printed from trees, so I think it kind of does. But she would say, money doesn't grow on trees. And so it taught me that money was scarce and I had to go work hard for it. It couldn't just grow and be abundant. Like in my recent travels, it was really interesting because we went to so many tropical places where literally food is everywhere. You don't actually have to buy food. Like if you're a local, you just go out and catch a fish. You just go and climb a tree and get a coconut. You just wait long enough and a mango will fall out of the tree. And it's so amazing because literally there is fruit and food provided all the time. And people even said, wow, what would it be like to just sit here and have everything provided? And it's like, well, you're still putting forth effort. You're still going and getting the fish. You're still climbing the tree. So there's still effort. It doesn't mean that it has to be hard work, but there has to be effort. And so if we get in the state of not allowing our efforts to be rewarded, then we get in the state of saying, even though it's abundant, I don't want to receive it. And we're letting the fruit rot on the tree. So asking yourself, are there areas where I've let fruit just rot on the tree because I thought it was too easy or I thought somebody else should have it? And then maybe even tuning into where those thoughts came from. So money growing on trees, that was from my mother for sure. My dad would be work really, really hard. If you just have to work harder. You just have to work harder. You notice this because there are a lot of us who have parents who are laborers, or parents who lived through the Great Depression, or grandparents, where they saved everything and everything was so scarce, 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 scarce. And allowing that to clear out is going to be powerful.